Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
ABC Wednesdays, Shifting Gears is back.
He has arisen.
Tim Allen and Kat Dennings return in television's #1 new comedy.
What?
With a star-studded premiere including Jenna Elfman, Nancy Travis, and...
Hey, buddy!
A big home improvement reunion.
Welcome.
Oh, boy.
That guy's a tool.
Shifting Gears, new Wednesdays, 8, 7 Central on ABC, and stream on Hulu.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by The Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
What is happening? Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. I'm your host, N64 Josh. We got a very special guest today, Nico Games. What's going on?
How we doing, Josh?
So good. So, guys, this episode's going to be all about Pokemon ZA. We might sprinkle in a little bit about some competitive stuff because that was the original plan here. But I'm like, you know what? ZA is in 9 days. I got a lot I want to say about this game, and Nico is hardcore Pokemon, like shiny hunting, competitive, all of the above. And so we are just going to kind of break down what we think about ZA, my hands-on, some questions he might have, some questions I have as a more hardcore player going into this game. And so before we jump into it, though, we want to get to know Nico just a little bit. So give us a little bit of history with Nintendo, Pokemon, and plug your channels, all that.
Yeah, so my history with Nintendo, I mean, I've been playing since my first console was the GameCube. That was the first one my dad got me when I was a kid. My brother and I loved the GameCube, you know, Smash, Melee, all that good stuff. And that, for me, stuck. My brother's transition, he's not a big Nintendo guy anymore, but it stuck with me all the way up through to where we are now with the Switch 2. Even during the DS era, my family was like, why do you play all your games on your DS versus, you know, I had a PS3, I had, you know, all the other consoles. And I was like, I don't know. I vibe with it. So then that led to YouTube, making content. And I started my channel way back, my original channel as a variety channel. And then that led to Pokemon, which I've always played. And I got into competitive play, and that's kind of where that channel took off. And I just ran with it. And that channel I just set aside because I started another channel as a side project for fun. That one's now Nico Games. And I started that just to talk Switch 2 stuff, so I didn't mess up my Pokemon algorithm, all that. And then that channel kind of took off, and I was getting a lot more success, a lot more opportunities and everything with that channel. So I just kind of set aside the Pokemon stuff and, you know, moved over to the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. So that's where you can find me now, is Nico Games. My other channel's still there. If you're ever interested in any of my old Pokemon stuff, I still have guides and stuff up there. And then on TikTok, it's Nico Games as well. Twitter is Nico Gaming. Yeah, just a long time Nintendo enjoyer and Pokemon player.
I love that. Is there you correct me if I'm wrong, but you got into competitive on Sword and Shield, or did you get into Pokemon on Sword and Shield?
I got into competitive in Sword and Shield. I played Pokemon since my first handheld was the DS. So then I got in Diamond and Pearl, and I've played every generation up to now.
Okay, quick question about ZA. Should I try to blitz through X before this game comes out, or do you think it's that important?
There's some characters that tie in. I'm not sure, just based on what we've seen so far, how interconnected it's going to be with X and Y. There's like AZ is definitely connected in some way, but I don't know that it's super necessary to like run through the game. If I mean, if you caught like a quick recap on YouTube or something, that might be the way to go.
I got you. Okay. It's one of those games I got free from Club Nintendo. I tried to start playing it and I was like, I don't understand Pokemon anymore. Like I went from yellow to that and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know. And it wasn't until Let's Go that it was like, those were the baby steps I needed to then go, yo, I think I'm like, this series has got me.
Yeah.
Right. And then Sword and Shield, I played through Sword, I believe. And then the Shiny Pearl or whatever, Brilliant Diamond, Shiny Pearl, whatever. I couldn't put like, I shocked everybody with how fast I played through that game because I was just like, I can't put this down. This Pearl took me back to being, I was a teen. I was like 19, 20 years old when I finally played through Yellow, but I loved it. And then that just took me right back. So that's why I was curious. And when we were at the Nintendo event, the rep that was there was like, oh, look who it is. Like I should have been surprised. And I was like, I have no clue. And and it was AZ from Pokemon X and Y or whatever, and like she had said a lot of people were getting very excited by seeing that, but like I was like, that means nothing to me, I'm unfortunately. So I was just curious if you thought if I should blitz through it, or maybe like you said, maybe I just catch a recap of everything on YouTube. That might be the easier way of doing it with all the time constraints. So what's like, you got into competitive with Sword and Shield. What was that like? And I'm going to preface it like this. When I made the decision to go competitive into Smash, it was not it was a long road, right? And if you know much about Smash competitive, it's like you're talking about learning all of the names of the moves, then having to learn all of the moves, then starting to learn combos, starting to learn strats, all that and the way I got better at it is I just kept playing people that were much better than me and just kept losing, and then would continually get asked, how did I beat you? And it was literally the Neo Morpheus kind of thing. Was it a similar road for you with Pokemon?
Yeah, Pokemon's like super complicated as far as the inner workings of competitive play. So you have to learn everything that the game doesn't tell you, because a lot of other games you can pick up and you hover your cursor, hover your controller over whatever the stat is that you're looking for, and it'll give you that information. Pokemon just doesn't give you a lot of information, like EVs, IVs, all those like nitty gritty details that like if you don't actively look. I think Scarlet and Violet's the only game that has ever mentioned them. And if you don't actively look into this stuff, you'll never know they exist by just playing Pokemon casually. So you have to learn all that. Then you have to learn what each stat actually means, with the different move types, whether they be physical attacks, special attacks. Then you learn real quick, as a kid growing up, there were no like moves that didn't do damage on my Pokemon. You're always having attacks. But then you learn, the details of, oh, this move does this, lowers the defense, raises my attack, does something that benefits me. So then you have to change your mindset on how you actually apply moves to Pokemon. You learn about like stab. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. But that's same a type attack bonus. So if you use a Pokemon that's a grass type and use a grass type move, then it'll do 1.5 times damage instead of like a water type using a grass type move that'll only do neutral damage. So there's like all these minute details that the game doesn't explain to you that you have to learn. And then the process of actually building a team and training a team, you have to figure out what stats are important on what Pokemon. There's damage calculations that you have to run. and learn. And it's a whole process. Most of my time in Sword and Shield until closer to the very end of Sword and Shield was just learning. And it was losing a lot. Like you said with Smash, I was playing people on the rank ladder, and I would get to Master Ball, which is the top rank in Sword and Shield, but it would take me like 70 battles to get there, versus now in Scarlet and Violet, it takes me like, I don't know, if I start from ground zero, it takes me 20 battles. And if I reset a season, it takes me like 3 or 4 to get back to Master Ball. So like, it just, as you're going to lose so much getting into competitive Pokemon, because you do something that you think is cool and will work, and then in practice it doesn't actually pan out. So it's just a lot of testing and learning as you go.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tease you guys for a future episode. I am working on the Road to Champions, and Nico's gonna help us out with that. We've got another show already planned. We're gonna dig into that after ZA is here, and we've had our fill of ZA. We got Champions coming in February, I believe. That's the date. So. And so it's winter 2026. We'll be diving in. So let's transition over into ZA. What are your thoughts about this game? There's a lot being changed here. It's evolving, if you will.
Yeah. So I've said this in so many of my videos where I am super on the fence about this game. I think the premise is cool. I like that we're going back to Lumio City. I like that we have this big open city to explore. The new battle system seems okay. That's kind of what I'm most on the fence with. It seems like a really cool adaptation, kind of leaning more into the anime of Pokemon. Where you're moving around the battlefield and reacting to what's actually happening. But the gameplay, at least in my opinion, the marketing that they've done hasn't sold me on the gameplay, like the battles themselves. However, I've listened to your podcast. I've heard you talk about it. You've went hands-on with the game, and I listen to a lot of other Nintendo podcasts, and everybody that's played the demo says this game is awesome when you get hands-on with it, which is why I have hope. While still being cautiously optimistic and like a little on the fence about it.
What's keeping you on the fence? I'm just curious.
It's just that battle system. It just doesn't really vibe with me. It looks boring in the trailers. Like it just doesn't do anything for me when I'm watching it happen, versus if I get hands-on, I might feel differently, but just the way they've portrayed it in the trailers and the gameplay that I've seen, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm not wowed by it.
So it was my game of PAX, right? After playing Final Fantasy on Switch 2, Borderlands on Switch 2, Hades was there, Elden Ring, Kirby Air Riders, the FC26, Star Wars, Pokemon. The moment now, running through like the night battles, and again, I apologize for not having all the exact, but like how night comes and then you start just fighting the different people along the way. You're doing some sneak attacks. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It felt quick, right? It felt like you were just kind of like knocking them out quick, like getting some XP. But where this game shined for me was those rogue mega evolution battles. That it was game over. The moment I did that, I was like, this is a blast. And what it felt like to me, and I think the reason I liked it so much, it felt like Xenoblade.
Okay.
It felt like Xenoblade. You are giving the inputs for your character for your Pokemon to attack, but it's auto attacking. So you're focused more on the strategy and also managing your health while it is attacking, and you're having to watch those timers count down. It felt so Xenoblade. I was like, this is fantastic. Now, the other reason that I like this, and that it kind of ties into Champions. I think Champions allows Pokemon to stay in the OG style of Pokemon, if you will, while allowing these games to evolve and then make them more fun and not that the old way of doing it isn't fun, but we're talking what, 30 years of those same kind of battles, right? And so to finally see like, Arceus kind of mixed up the formula a bit. Now ZA is mixing it up even more. I'm I feel like it may bring more people in because in some aspects, I wonder if that old school battling was holding it back and not letting the series really evolve. So I don't know. After hearing that it's kind of got some Xenoblade, like it feels a little bit like Xenoblade. Does that change or make it worse? Maybe.
Uh, it excites me more. I like Legends Arceus. I like when they do crazy spin-off stuff. That doesn't bother me. So I really like Xenoblade 3. That's my favorite. And I so that hearing that really excites me a bit more about the battle system. So that's exciting. As a competitive player, though, the changing of the battle systems, while it's cool in those games, I don't know that I want the mainline. And I know they call ZA and Legends Arceus mainline games, but I don't know that I want like the core Pokemon games to stray too far from the traditional battle system.
Even with champions being there, like where it's like those other games, you can get your teams into home and then do the traditional fighting over there. Like, and it's okay, it's complete. Like, I'm not trying to convince you otherwise. I'm very curious from a hardcore Pokemon fan. Like, how do you feel about them kind of like basically separating?
Champions there, or whenever Gen 10 comes out next year, that we get a new gimmick. And I and like playing through the game as test out the new gimmick, like the whole through it works, the different ways you can utilize it, and then you can apply, getting into that side of the game after you roll credits and everything. So for me, if they do a new gimmick, they plan, I kind of still want the same battle formula, the traditional turn-based battle formula, so we can learn the gimmick by playing through the story, and then
Gotcha. Okay. So the gimmicks were enough to like keep you hooked, even if the traditional battling was there.
yes.
Got it. Okay. What do you feel that these like? Do you think ZA is going to be like maybe more appealing to a new audience? Do you think it's going to bring in new people into the fold since it feels like it's a bit more like community focused with like the ranked battles and uh, maybe a much lower cost of entry, being able to just duke it out and see who can get the most Pokemon. And at the same time, the one thing that does kind of excite me is I wonder if this opens up another realm of competitive, because I could see at least community side going, hey, we're gonna do a ZA tournament, and having to figure out the meta and then how that all works could end up being another fun aspect of competitive also.
No, yeah, I think that ZA for sure is going to be. It's more appealing to a wider audience, I would say. I think it's seeing the battle system and it not being turn based. I feel like turn based, especially in this day and age, gets a bad rep, and I don't know why. With all the turn based games that do come out, like Expedition 33 earlier this year, I feel like it turns people away. So I think that this will appeal to a wider audience and get more goaded. A bunch of people that didn't play traditional Pokemon came in and played Pokemon Go, had a great time. I think ZA can have the similar effect. Aren't interested. So yeah, I think there's definitely an aspect of getting people in on the side of competitive play. I definitely think what you're saying is right. Like there will be people and play against each other, see who can get the most wins. And I don't know how the ranks going to work, and how the point system's going to work, because it's like
Right.
1v1v1v1. So I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work as far as the online, and yeah, I definitely think there's a fun community side to this game where people are going to put together some cool tournaments and stuff like that, especially, at events like PAX and stuff like that. Doing Pokemon tournaments in ZA could be really cool.
Okay, so when it comes to moving Pokemon from home into ZA, how are you feeling about this? Because it seems like some people are a little on the fence. Like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but has that happened in any other game? Can you move stuff into other games, then back to home, and then back into older games?
So it depends on the game. With a lot of the newer games, like especially with the transition from DS to the Switch stuff, you can move them from bank into home where they can go into the other games as long as those Pokemon exist in those games, but they can't go back into the 3DS games. So it's kind of like that. It's really convoluted. But I think with the ZA thing is a lot of people get it confused, is that you can take the Pokemon from like Scarlet and Violet, BDSP, whatever the game is, into ZA. You just can't send them back into those older games. So for me as a competitive player and knowing that, Champions and Gen 10's on the horizon, I'm less concerned about having my Pokemon in the older games because I'll probably never go back to playing those games unless I need to like replay them to get a certain Pokemon that I need for a team or something along those lines. So for me, it's kind of a non-issue. If I want it in ZA, I'll just move it into ZA and deal with the consequences and then move it. I'm sure there will be no issue moving those Pokemon from ZA into future generations like Gen 10 and everything else that comes after.
So you're fairly confident that anything that we get from ZA will be able to use in Champions?
Yeah, as long as they support it in Champions, because what they've been doing with removing certain Pokemon, not having the national decks anymore, I'm sure Champions will follow that same path where only certain Pokemon are actually going to be able to be in Champions at any given time. And I have a feeling that's how they're going to keep that game evergreen, is that, oh, we've got, ZA coming out. So now the ZA Pokemon are available in Champions, or we've got Gen 10 coming out. Now the entire fresh decks that is in Gen 10 is available in Champions. And then each game, they just keep updating it slowly with more Pokemon that were not previously available in it. So I would imagine that at launch, all of the ZA Pokemon at least will be in, because I think there's only like maybe 120 Pokemon in that game. All of those Pokemon I'd imagine will be in Champions day one.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So it's not something to necessarily worry about, like, because the likelihood of us going back to an older game, because I mean, I've been seeing tweets and stuff that like Scarlet and Violet are done, like the World Championships has come and gone. And so I assume it kind of runs in seasons, because I went and watched some of these because I was like, I want to understand the battling, right? And I was like, this is a chess match. Like this is an insane chess match that like, I'm like, yo, on top of trying to learn how to breed these things perfectly, then to learn the ins and outs of like trying to read your opponent, which I mean, it's very much a something you do in Smash, right? But you're just not trying to punch their face as soon as they make their move. You're trying to make sure that you're either countering it or, trying to think 3 steps ahead of them, right? And so, do you foresee Champions being easier to get into because of the little sliders and not the EVs and IVs? Because I know it's a lot of it was when I tried to learn this the first time, I'm like, I'm not going to spend 9 hours on my bike trying to get this thing perfect. Like it's insanity.
Yeah, I think Champions is fantastic. It's honestly everything that I've wanted from competitive Pokemon for the longest time. I've been saying since I got into competitive Pokemon that it's too convoluted. It's way too much effort and work for a casual Pokemon fan to decide they want to get into competitive Pokemon and then have to go through all of the steps to get into competitive Pokemon, training your Pokemon, getting the moves, getting all the items that you need. It's just a lot. Compared to Champions, you put the Pokemon in and it looks like we don't actually send the Pokemon into Champions based on the diagram that they showed. It looks like it just connects and it makes like a carbon copy of your Pokemon and puts them into Champions. That's just speculation, just based on the image. But like with the other games, it shows an arrow going back and forth, like you're actually physically moving the Pokemon. Versus with Champions, it just shows like a little green bar that says connects. So it sounds like we just copy them in, and then we can adjust the stats and do whatever we need to do to those Pokemon in Champions. And for me, as someone who's tried to get many people, my brother included, into competitive Pokemon, and they look at me like I'm a crazy person when I start saying things like EVs and IVs. This seems like a really awesome way to get people in. Especially they haven't announced if it's like paid or free yet, but if it's free to play, being on mobile, being on Switch, I feel like that's just a really good opportunity to get more people in, get them excited about it, and then have them go, oh, now I want to pick up the main game because now I need this Pokemon that's in this game and I can move it in and do more battles. So I think Champions is a really smart move and something that I've wanted for a long time.
It's free to start is the verbiage.
Yeah.
So interesting. Well, going back to ZA, how are you going to tackle this game? How do you tackle most Pokemon games? Like me, I go through the story and then I might start. I'm not great at like completing my decks. And I got to give a shout out to the community because a lot of times they're like, who are you missing? And then all of a sudden, there's just all these trades. And, you know, I have a full Pokedex.
So in the past, how I've dealt with it is I go through the story, do everything. I don't normally like catch a ton of Pokemon along the way. I just get the Pokemon that I want from my team, get through the story, roll credits. And then, because from a content creation standpoint, I'm like, I need to get this done so I can do guides, I can talk about shinies and doing everything like that. So then after that, I go about completing the Pokedex, because typically the reward, if you finish your Pokedex, is the shiny charm, and that will give you increased shiny odds. So then I'm like, okay, now you have the shiny charm, you have X percentage higher chance of finding a shiny Pokemon. Then I can do the shiny guides and everything like that. So that's typically my course of action. And then if the game does have a competitive feature, then by the time I roll credits, I'm like finishing the Pokedex. I'm like, now I have the Pokemon I need to actually go and play competitive. With ZA, it'll be weird because I'm not sure how the stats are actually working. If there's EVs, IVs, do we need to even care about that? Or do we just need to know that, you know, Dragonite's a physical attacker and Delphox is a special attacker, and that's all you need to know. And then you slot your moves and you go online and you run around and try to knock more people out. So with this game, it'll be probably a little different as we figure out what actually is going on as far as competitive goes.
Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's favorite vodka for a reason. From the first legal distillery in Texas, Tito's is 6 times distilled till it's just right. And naturally gluten-free, making it a high-quality spirit that mixes with just about anything. From the smoothest martinis to the best Bloody Marys. Tito's is known for giving back, teaming up with nonprofits to serve its communities and do good for dogs. Make your next cocktail with Tito's. Distilled and bottled by 5th Generation Inc., Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume. Savor responsibly.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Do you now? I've tried to watch a bunch of trailers. I tried to ask some questions. I wish I had asked this. Do you think the Mega Evolutions, like the Rogue Mega Evolutions, are going to be included in multiplayer, like similar to the raids in Scarlet and Violet? And maybe it was announced, maybe I just missed it, but it's been something that I've been curious about.
I feel like they mentioned it, but I can't remember 100%. I would hope they'd be the same, because that'd be a good way to keep this game going longer. Because they could do the events like they're doing in Scarlet and Violet, where like, oh, this Pokemon's in for a month and it's a little more challenging. Squad up with your friends and take it down, and then you can catch it afterwards, or whatever the case may be. I would hope they do that, because that's been a lot of fun the last couple of games with like Sword and Shield and then Scarlet and Violet. The raids have been something that I've really enjoyed, getting on live streaming, doing it with the community, and like just having a good time with it. Especially in Scarlet, I feel like they really nailed it down in Scarlet and Violet with like the 7-star raids, because then you kind of actually have to learn competitive Pokemon a little bit to like build the right Pokemon to take them into the raids to actually take them down. And I've really enjoyed that aspect, giving competitive almost a PvE sense rather than a PvP. So I hope they do that. It would make the most sense, but I never know. As a Pokemon fan, I'm always cautiously optimistic. They like 2 steps forward, 1 step back most of the time.
Yeah, that does seem to be the case. It's unfortunate, but hopefully that does end up being what happens here, because I'm with you. When the PvE aspect of it gets brought in and it's actually really fun, it makes streaming and and doing stuff with the community just that much better. And I do think for myself, this is going to be one of those games that like I'm going to go pretty deep with. That's the idea here. I want to maybe complete it even more so than I have with any of the other games, and maybe work on that full Pokedex myself. And depending on how stats work and how how we need to train them up to get to be the best against those rogue mega evolutions. And the mega evolutions for me are something that's relatively new, and a lot of people are very excited to see that come back. Is that something that does have you somewhat excited when it comes to ZA?
So I like mega evolutions as a competitive player. They're centralizing. They make the meta really you'll never I just leave them off the table. So excited about them. I think they're really cool, and the way they're adapting them with the actual like raid battles is really cool. But as far as if they're in champions and how they go to that's yet to be seen, and how they impact the meta could actually be a problem for me.
I got you. Yeah. So it's really interesting the way all of this stuff is kind of, the way it's all just formed together to see how is the big picture when it comes to this, when it comes to champions. And so we kind of broke down how you're going to tackle this game. Like, is there any plan for you when it comes to champions? Like, I'm imagining you've got a very full Pokemon home. You've got like, just a massive Pokedex. Are there any Pokemon that you're like, I really need to make sure I have this before champions? Obviously, we have no clue about the meta, but are there any that you are really like hoping end up being in the meta?
So I kind of like the lower power format. So early on in all the games, they'll do formats that don't include any of the legendary Pokemon. And I personally really like that, because then the little guys that don't necessarily have the normal stats that can like deal with the higher tier Pokemon, they get a more of a chance to shine. So I get to build a little more goofy stuff. So for me, I'm hoping with champions, whenever we get in there, that we have a format with just lower power stats. And we can have a little more goofiness and fun before they start bringing in, I'm sure with the ZA, we'll get, Yveltal, Xerneas, all the legendaries that are tied to X and Y. Before those get added into competitive, I want the little guys to have a chance to shine. I can build some goofier stuff. But as far as like the stuff I prep for, I feel like just by playing the game, if you're completing your Pokedex and doing everything that you'd normally be doing playing Pokemon, you should be fine to just grab a Pokemon and import it into champions and not have to worry too much.
How do you feel about the DLC being announced prior to? I know a lot of people in the community get very upset about this. Oh, it's obviously cut content. No, the content's not even coming out for it's a couple months before it drops. And I mean, for me, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. It's like, I like, if I'm of the mind, like if they had told me Mario Kart World DLC was coming, I'd be stoked. I wouldn't be like, oh, it's cut. Like, no, it's a full Mario Kart game, what they've always done. It's the same amount of tracks as they've always done. Knowing that there's something to look forward to, that's exciting to me. I don't view it as like, oh, it's just another money grab. No, if there's story elements to this, and this is a complete game, like, I'm all for it. I thought the same about Donkey Kong Bonanza. I'm like, the game was loaded with content, like loaded. So having some extra, albeit I wish they had put a little more effort into that DLC, I'm okay with it. But where do you stand when it comes to that?
I'm in a very similar boat. I don't really care that they announced it already. Like you said, the content doesn't come out until February. So we're just getting like, it's a pre-order bonus. We're getting like the costumes for our character in the game. So for me, I don't care. I'm going to buy it day one. Like ZA will be $100 game for me on my Switch 2 day one. But like I compare it to other games that I enjoy, like before Borderlands got delayed, I had that pre-ordered on Switch 2 for the $100 version. And that was promising content down the road. They've got their roadmap and everything. And I was like, cool, I get to play base Borderlands. And then in January, whenever they release this content, I already have access to it. So that really bother me. Especially, I don't know why Pokemon's getting so much crap for it, considering that other games have been doing this forever. Like Assassin's Creed always has a $100 version that has some sort of DLC content roadmap that they've planned out. Like, it's been something that's gone on so long that I don't really understand why we're shocked that it's happening with Pokemon.
Yeah, I think it's just flavor of the week, what to get angry at, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just kind of the way it goes. I am checking something right now because I saw somebody mention the game vouchers. Yeah, so both Pokemon ZA and Metroid are on the game vouchers for Switch 1. So that means you can get them for $50 each and then get the upgrade for each of them for 10, I believe is the case. Well, if you go to Costco and you get your $100 worth of cards there for 90,
yeah.
Now you're saving even more money. So if you are thinking about going that route, you can say, if you're going all digital on them, but even if you're going physical, you could get you have to go full digital with this. Because with the vouchers and everything, but they are on. I was surprised to see. I was watching a video. I was watching a video yesterday. I was like, oh, these two games are still on the list. So you could basically get the Switch 2 versions if you are going digital, for $60 each.
Yeah, that's a good deal.
Or even less if you get your eShop cards at Costco. So just something to keep in mind. Like I didn't realize this was a thing. I thought the vouchers were going away.
Yeah,
honestly.
I thought they were gone.
So they just don't work on Switch for Switch 2 games, but they do work on Switch 1. So very, very interesting there. Well, I wanted to ask you, do you have any questions for me after going hands-on with the game?
How much of the actual city did you get to explore? Like, did you get to go out and catch Pokemon in those wild zones that they have? Like, what's that experience like? Because this is the first game that's only in one city, which I think is odd, considering that, that's always been kind of the thing to have cities and then explore the wilderness around them. I think the one cities, it's an interesting concept, but in practice, I don't know if you've gotten a chance to go and actually see how it works, catching Pokemon, doing all that.
Unfortunately, the demo was 10 minutes each, and one was to, it was like at night, and you went and fought the other trainers, and then the other was just the rogue mega evolution, and that was it. So there was no catching. Now, the one thing that was very fun, there was a battle that only got beat by 2 people, while we were at talking to the Nintendo rep. And you basically had to run around and find a rare candy and evolve your Pokemon before you got to this battle. And then you had to hit the Pokemon with a sneak attack of either poison or sleep. I'm not sure which. And if you did that, it gave you the opportunity to potentially beat. But it was all even as I was running through and they're like, oh, there's nothing over there. And then they went, oh, there is stuff over there. But I wasn't getting the rare candy that I needed to be able to level up. So by the time I got there, I tried my sneak attack, did not work. I got one-shotted and that was it. Gotcha. That was it. So no catching of the Pokemon, unfortunately, like that wasn't a thing. But yeah, outside of that, it was just those 2 modes. I do want to mention with the Mega Evolution battle, one of the coolest things, and it's something kind of minor, but the Pokemon we were fighting, or that I was fighting, was it had an AoE attack, and you would have to take your trainer out of that, but you'd also have to pull your Pokemon back to the ball so it wouldn't take damage either. So it was another element of strategy that I was like, yo, the depth here, albeit it's not super, super deep, it makes it fun. Like the gameplay loop of fight, it kind of gave it like a Souls, because you're not only dodging with your own character trying not to get hit, you're also trying to make sure that your Pokemon's not getting hit.
Yeah.
And so it just added another layer that I was like, this is this is kind of brilliant. And it was those few little things that like, I cannot wait until the 16th. Like it is, this game has me very, very excited. Yeah, I understand the city, and we're not going out and exploring. And I see a lot of the videos and the comments about the way the game looks. And I am of the mind when it comes to these games, I'm completely fine. I'm not talking just Pokemon in general, but even like Metroid coming out, these games that were made for Switch 1, when they can get that up-res, they look far more next gen than these games that are trying to be bleeding edge and then struggle to hit frame rates and everything like that. I'm kind of okay with this. Like, I'm like, sure, the buildings look flat, all that kind of stuff. That's not why I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm there to catch Pokemon. The story's probably going to be, whatever. It's a Pokemon story. It's not like you're there for it's not The Last of Us. You know what I mean? It's just fluff, but it still can be fun. And at the end of the day, I'm looking at this game as a building game for champions, and I'm hoping that the tie-in with the two is something that's pretty rad, and that we're gonna have a good time with it. But any other questions that you might have at knowing that I've played, and just only played those two things.
So you said the battles are kind of quick when you do just the standard at nighttime, the kind of battle royale thing they got going on. You said they're kind of quick. There's not like multiple turns of you waiting for your cooldown. It's pretty much you're just getting in there, doing an attack or two, and then you're bouncing into the next battle.
So you're kind of just walking through, and if you get that sneak attack, you basically get double. You get to do double the attack. Like you get to attack twice before they can attack once. And so depending on your level, you're gonna potentially smoke most of them, right? But then when you got to the end, it wasn't the case. So I think it's going to be one of those things. As you're building the ranks, you're not just going to blow through everything.
Yeah.
You may there's going to be XP being built as you work your way up to the higher up the ladder. But I don't think it's just going to be, I think there's going to be some more, like, not only strategy, but you're going to have to make sure that you're the right levels, that you do have the right, that your team is probably equipped, that the right team is equipped for these different. And I assume you can swap out, like they didn't really go into that kind of stuff during the demo that we played. So the early battles are, and it was a lot like just running through the town, and then you get, you have those random encounters with different trainers or whatever, where they're like, hey, we should throw down or whatever. Like, it's kind of like that, but it's more like you can do those sneak attacks to kind of move through the lighter Pokemon quickly. And then it's going to be a little, it seemed to build. I don't recall, I'll have to go through my footage. I don't recall like what level we were or what level they were, how and how all that stuff. I mean, the demos are designed to, like, they want to try to squeeze maximum fun out of 10 minutes. Yeah. So it's like, we were probably a little over leveled up until we got to like the final area.
That makes it almost sound like a roguelike, the nighttime aspect of the game, where
does.
During the day, you're training your team up, you're changing moves out, changing what you need to, and then getting items. And then at night, you go back in and see how much farther you can get than the previous night.
Yep. Very much. Very much. Yeah. And then the other thing is those rogue mega evolutions are kind of a Souls-like.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mix of the two genres, which I think is great, because it is an evolution of Pokemon. And it does get me. And then, like I said early on, that it's got that Xenoblade feel to it also, and you're focused more on your movement and watching your cooldowns, and then of course getting your Mega Evolution going, that kind of stuff. Because the other thing with the Mega Evolutions, while you're fighting, you're collecting the shards that are falling off of that thing. So you got to get in close, not get too close. You don't want to get hit. If that AoE is going off, you got to really move it before that hits you. And you're trying to get your Pokemon up to its Mega Evolution so it can do more damage. I don't know if you saw I think it was I don't know if it was the Australia or the UK, Nintendo of America put out a trailer. I'm sure it's out everywhere now. It's got that kid from Stranger Things, with the curly hair.
Oh, I did see it. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, so there's a I think they show a Mega Greninja, I believe, like a Mega Evolution Greninja, which like for some of the different Pokemon creators that I follow on Twitter, they were kind of freaking out about it, kind of excited about it. So you know, which I think is really like I don't have any clue on what should I expect or what's coming back or what's new. But I love seeing so many people get so excited. Are there any Pokemon that you would love to see get a Mega Evolution that haven't?
See that's a tricky thing is I don't know what's in this game that would get the Mega Evolution. I am excited like Greninja. That one's exciting. Delphox and Chestnut. We know that all those are getting megas. That's cool because they came out in the game that introduced megas, but then didn't get megas. And so it's cool that they're finally getting that. Those are the ones that are locked behind the ranked play though. And I'm not a big fan of that personally. But
interesting. Okay. Well, dig into that a little bit.
So the issue I have with that is I'm not a fan of any game that has content locked behind like actual game relevant content. Like we don't know how relevant, you know, Greninja or Chestnut or any of those guys are going to be to competitive play. So locking them behind ranked play, I'm not a fan of. They've never done that in the past as far as Pokemon are concerned. Like they've done tournaments where if you did like 3 battles in an online tournament, you would get the shiny version of a Pokemon. But shinies don't have any sort of competitive value. They're just cool. It's more of a flex than anything else. So having actually Pokemon that could be meta relevant locked behind content, I'm just not a fan of.
Icy Hot Pro with 2 max strength pain relievers. Targets multiple pain receptors. Ice works fast. Heat makes it last.
You know how they could get around this?
How's that?
A 1-month trial.
Yeah. Yeah.
A 1-month trial of NSO would have like it would allow people to try NSO and also get those Pokemon, right? And then there's no bad press. Yeah. There's 0 bad press at that point.
They could have tied it in as a pre-order bonus.
They could have done that too.
Pre-order the game and I'm saying with NSO, pre-order the game and you get a month free to do the online stuff to get Mega Greninja.
Make that I got you. Yeah. Yeah. Because I think, I mean, I understand the business side of it if they want more people on NSO.
Yeah.
Right. You also get the full, you also don't experience the full game without NSO. Right. Because you're not doing the versus battles and, you know, and the online. And so, yeah, it's I see where people are coming from where it's like, and I do think they could have just remedied that with if you're going to lock those behind, give a free month so that anybody that plays it gets all the content and then they can decide if they want to keep going with their membership or not.
Yeah.
And, you know,
the way I wish they would have done it is like they did with a lot of the 7-star raids in Scarlet and Violet, where we had the megas pop, because that's how you get the mega stones, if I'm not mistaken, for all the other megas, is you do those big raid battles against them, and by defeating them, you get the mega stone.
I gotcha.
So
I'm pretty sure that is the case.
What would have been cool is like, you know, after, you know, couple weeks after launch, they went, oh, this month we have an event and Mega Greninja is a special raid. So then you go do another one of those raid battles, you take down Mega Greninja, and then you get your Mega Stone versus doing the online. I think that would have been cool because that's kind of what they've already done in previous games, especially with how much you've hyped up the actual Mega Raid battles. I think that would have been a little bit more fun for people that are like, I don't really want to get into the competitive side of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Understandable. Understandable. Well, any closing thoughts for us on ZA before we wrap this up?
I will say you've turned me around. I'm a little more excited about this now after you said, you know, it's more like Xenoblade. You've talked about the mega raids and stuff. That all really excites me. So I've kind of jumped over that fence I'd been sitting on regarding it.
I love that. I love that. And the thing that the same was true for me with Kirby Air Riders. It wasn't until I played it that I was like, oh, this is kind of brilliant. It's kind of fun. It's going to be a great party game, especially, you know, on stream, that kind of stuff. Prior to playing it, I was like, you know, whatever. Prior to playing ZA, I was like, cool, Pokemon. I'll play the heck out of it. Now I'm like, yo, it can't get here fast enough after playing it. I'm also not your typical Pokemon player, right? Like I would say I'm like uber casual and I'm working to remedy that and take it to another level. But at this point, as an Uber casual, I think it's going to appeal to a lot more people.
Yeah.
I think it will have that appeal, and I hope more people jump in and try it, because again, I'm probably too old to really be enjoying Pokemon, right? And I don't mean that in a sense, but there's not the nostalgia pull that I have with like Mario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Playing it in my 20s, it was like, okay, yeah, it is what it is. Seeing the cartoon, I was like, yeah, it's not for me. Like it just wasn't for me. But like when it comes to these games now, I'm kind of all in and cannot wait for Champions. And we are going to be back for another episode to really dive into Champions, and probably even have you back after ZA just to see, if you love it, or if you're like, I wish I hadn't spent the $100.
For sure.
Cool. Well, one more time, let people know where they can find you.
You can find me on YouTube and TikTok at Nico Games. That's KNEECKOH. I spell it really weird. And then on Twitter, I'm at Nico Gaming. That's where you can find me.
Cool. All right. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. And remember, play it loud.